The excuse that we've heard them use is they have no other place to bike. That's the excuse they told the reporters today. And meanwhile, there is at least 2 other city-sponsored and built BMX tracks in the city where they can go, that they don't go to. They would rather destroy the environment and destroy a sacred site and thumb their noses at us and our people, disrespect them and our ancestors. Rather than that, they'd rather do this. So this is why we kind of had it to up here with it all. And I hope you can understand our position with this, because this is some more things that's been found that the city's unlicensed archaeologists and staff didn't find. We found these things. And we called the police about this, and they wouldn't deal with it. And they're in fault because there's certain things under the Cemeteries Act that they have to follow, and they refuse to follow it. They told us to just deal with it ourselves and walked away. So, and these are some more items we found. This is some baked red ochre. That's a marine shell that came from the Gulf of Mexico. It's not local to here. This is an arrowhead that was found by one of the women down there, who now says it's just a pile of dirt. But yet she's the one that found this arrowhead down there. So why would you find an arrowhead in just a pile of dirt? And this is obsidian pieces, and that's a piece of chert. And this is Onondaga chert, which came from the Fort Erie area. And these pieces of obsidian had come from quite far away, from Wyoming and further west. When we're down there and doing ceremony, we usually take a walk around. I take a walk around, and whatever's found on the surface, we document it, record it, take pictures of it, we GPS the spot where it was found, and remove it, because if we don't, it'll disappear. And then we'll have no record of what's there at all. And our people have asked us to do that anyway, is not to leave these things here, especially an arrowhead. An arrowhead would go missing just like that. If somebody saw it, they would pick it up and cart it away, and I'm sure that's already happened many times in the park already. So we do that, we take it and we put it in a good place and keep it until this site is restored back to the way it should be, and then we'll take it back and rebury it where it was found with those ancestors. But it's not going to end up in any museum or anything like that, because these things are sacred, even though to some people it looks like just a piece of a rock. You know, that piece of obsidian was used for protection, to protect the mound, and also the person that had that obsidian, it was a protection stone for them.
How large would that have been?
It's varying sizes. That particular piece is about that big around. And it's something that they would have carried in a pouch next to their heart, protect them from any medicine that was harmful to them throughout life. So you find things like that there. You find unworked pieces of stone, because it was a belief among our people that whenever they would go on a journey into that spirit world, that they would take those items with them that they needed to go on that journey. And in many cases it was unworked pieces of obsidian, chert, what have you, and they could finish it over there. But to archaeologists and other people, they just see this as a rock and they throw it in the water. I've seen people down there in the site that find something, they pick it up and they look at it, and they end up throwing it in the duck pond. So I'm sure there's quite a few pieces like this in the duck pond out there. And that's part of education, educating people that these things are special to us and our ancestors. This is how the snake mound looked before it was destroyed. And this is the area up by the paved pathway. And it weaves around like this. And the part that's left of it is this part here and that part there and half of this circle. And then they've created the jumps around in here. And they opened this up and all that earth goes washing into the duck pond now. And that's an environmental hazard in itself, to have burial soil flowing into that pond like that. So this is one of our goals, I should say, as a people, is to bring that site back to an honorable place, restore it back to the way it was, and hopefully the generations of people that are here now will have more respect for our people and their children, because by destroying things like this, or allowing it to be destroyed, that means that there's less and less and less for our children and our future generations that are coming to know that our people were there. And that's why we know this is why it's happening, because they want to erase our footprint, the ancestors' footprint in this area. So that way they can say in 100 years, where were your people at? And they've been doing this all over Turtle Island, not just the Haudenosaunee people, but they specifically target the Haudenosaunee people and their sites to desecrate and destroy and to erase. So that way they can create a history that's fabricated and doesn't go in line with the truth of the past. And when you do that, you're creating a false sense of security for the future, and also it's based upon lies and deception. So anything that you do is not based on truth. And when you don't base things on truth, the ground underneath you is very shaky. And then things like this come along and shakes that, what you've created that's false all these years. You know, they created a false history here in Toronto with all this stuff. Haven't recognized these sites that are very ancient, but yet their history starts with John Howard and all those people that came with him and just slightly before, and ignoring this history here that's very important too. And this is some of the things that we're doing as a group of people, community of like minds, one-minded people. They come together and have ceremonies there in the park to establish presence, because under their law we know that when we continue to have our ceremonies like this in our sacred places, legally it's acknowledged as a sacred site. As long as it's continued to be used that way, it's still a sacred site. This is a photograph that was taken 2 years ago in the summer. And I was down there in the rain when this happened. And after the rain, I started just taking pictures around. And I noticed that the water that was coming up out of the soil was yellow, and it had this foam sitting on top of it, and it gathered in one spot. So then when I took this photograph home and downloaded off the camera, this is what showed up. And it shows the path of that snake coming out of the ground and going up that way. And those are the ancestors that were stirred up when that rain came down, because the bikers had just been in there previous to that and stirred that all up. So this is the kind of thing that shows up, and that some people see with their human eye in the spirit world. So how can we say that this is just a hunk of ground or a hunk of earth. How can anyone say that? One of our elders, our Mohawk elders, Kahantaneta, she had said to me, she said, you know, those are mounds. And she used the word Iroquoian mounds. But that's what she said. She said, you know, those are Iroquoian mounds. And I said, yeah, we know. We know that there were other nations who also had burials there, because there's a huge buffalo mound up there. It's the shape of a buffalo's back. And that is from people to the west, that buffalo. And that's a very huge mound. And it's like a community mound from different nations coming there and burying their dead in one place. So we know from what Lori had said and what I'm saying too, that it's not just one particular culture of people that are buried in these mounds. There are, a lot of them are Iroquoian mounds, but there are people from the west, the Siouan people, who also built mounds. That's part of our language family, our linguistic family that we're a part of. They also built mounds in the west. So we know that from some of the items that we found there, that there's nations that have come from the west here to High Park and to bury their dead. That makes it a very special place and has attracted many people to it. Yeah.